Photoshop system requirements. Photoshop system requirements. What is the requirement system for Photoshop? By the way, applicable for November 2019 release version 21.0. This is applicable, yes, for that. Okay, so minimum system requirements for Photoshop. We have Windows and Mac OS. We have many operating system, by the way. We have many operating system. Okay, so we'd like to start with Windows. Minimum system requirements for Photoshop. We have number one, Windows. We have Windows consists of processor. The Windows consists of processor like Intel or AMD processor with 64-bit support 2 gigahertz faster processor, by the way, and operating system Microsoft Windows 7 and with service pack 164-bit Microsoft Windows 10 October 2018 update 64-bit version 1809 or later. Okay, we have RAM also. We have a RAM 2 gigabyte or more of RAM and 8 gigabyte recommended, and we have graphics cards like Nvidia and GeForce GTX 1050 or equivalent, and Nvidia and GeForce GTX 1660 or Quadro, and T1000 is recommended also. Yes, great. And we have hard disk space. The hard disk is based on Windows. For Photoshop, your hard disk space on Windows to support the Photoshop requirement system. Okay, 3.1 gigahertz or more. 3.1 gigahertz or more of available hard disk, by the way, space for 64-byte installation. Additional free space required during installation and cannot install on a volume that uses a case sensitive file system. Okay, be careful. And monitor resolution. What about the monitor resolution? The resolution on Photoshop requirement will be 1280 multiply 800 display at 100% UI scaling with 16-byte color and 512 megabyte or more, or dedicated VRAM 2 gigabyte is recommended. Okay, great. And OpenGL 2.0 capable system. And what about the internet? It's very important here. What about the internet to support the Photoshop requirements? Internet connection and registration are necessary, by the way, for required software activation and validation of subscriptions and access to online services. That's great. The 32-bit version of Windows is no longer supported, by the way, for support with 32-bit drivers and plug-ins, and use earlier versions of Photoshop. Okay, and not supported on Windows 10 version 1511 and 1607 and 1703 and 1709 and 1803, and 3D features are disabled on computers having less than 512 megabytes of RAM. Yes, that's fine. Okay, so notice two users, internet connections, Adobe ID, and acceptance of license agreement required to activate and use this product, and this product may integrate with or allow access to certain Adobe or third party hosted online services, and Adobe services are available only to users 13 and older and require agreement to additional terms of use and Adobe's online privacy policy, like this website adobe.com, and applications and services may not be available in all countries or languages and may be subject to change or discontinuation without notice, and additional fees or membership charges may apply. Okay, we finished now the Windows requirements for the Windows. Okay, so next, what is the next? Mac OS. What is the Photoshop requirements for Mac OS? If you have the Mac OS, what is the Photoshop requirements here now? We have a processor. A processor here now should be multi-core Intel processor with 64-bit support and operating system should be macOS version 10.13 High Sierra, and macOS version 10.14 Mojave, and macOS version 10.15 Catalina. That's fine. What about the RAM? The RAM should be 2 GB or more of RAM. 8 GB recommended. And graphic card. What about the graphics card? NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 or equivalent, and NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1660 or Quadro T1000 is recommended. So what about the hard disk space? For Mac OS, what about the hard disk space? If you have Mac OS, the Photoshop requirements in your hard disk space should be 4 GB or more, not less than that, not less than 4 GB. If your hard disk is less than 4 GB, it's not working, by the way. 4 GB or more of available hard disk space for installation, and additional free space required during installation, and cannot install on a volume that uses a case sensitive file system. That's fine. Great. What about the monitor resolution? Your monitor resolution to access the Photoshop requirement. The monitor resolution should be 1280 multiply 800, display at 100% with 16 byte color and 512 megabyte or more of dedicated VRAM, and 2 GB is recommended. So what about OpenGL 2.0 capable system? And what about the internet connection and registration are necessary for required software activation, membership validation, and access to online service. That's a great word. Thank you. Okay. So what about the 3D features are disabled on computers having less than 512 megabytes or VRAM. Notice to users: internet connections, Adobe ID, and acceptance of license agreements required to activate and use this product. This product may integrate with or allow access to certain Adobe or third-party hosted online service, by the way, and Adobe services are available only to users 13 and older, and require agreement to additional terms of use and Adobe's online privacy policy, like this website adobe.com. And applications or services may not be available in all countries or language, and may be subject to change or discontinuation without notice, and additional fees or membership charges may apply. That's a great word. Okay, this is about the Mac OS, and now we know everything about two types: Windows operating system and Mac OS operating system. That's fine and great. What about the language versions available for Photoshop? Language versions available for Photoshop. Which language versions will be available on Photoshop? We have Windows and Mac OS also. We have two operating system important. Yes, we have important two operating system: Windows and Mac OS. Photoshop is available in the following language, by the way: Danzig and Dutch and English and Espanol and Francis. Okay, great. All this language Photoshop will be available. Yeah. And Arabic and Hebrew. Arabic and Hebrew supported in a Middle Eastern version with full right to left language support. Arabic Hebrew features and an English interface. Also in a North African French and version with full right to left language support. Arabic Hebrew features and a French interface. This is for the Windows only operating system. So what about iOS? On supported iOS devices, Photoshop is available in the following language: Dutch and English and France. Great. And graphic processor requirement. What about the graphic processor requirement? Graphic processor requirement for Photoshop. Features requiring the graphics processor. We have tested graphics card. Tested graphics card. Don't see your card on the list. Don't see your card on the list. And unsupported card series. And system requirements for Adobe Camera Raw. The Adobe Camera Raw plugin gives you ability to import and work with Camera Raw files in Photoshop, and you can also use Camera Raw to work with JPG and TIFF files. And your computer may need to meet additional system requirements to work efficiently with Adobe Camera Raw, and you should to visit Photoshop system requirement for more details. Yeah, thank you. And what about unsupported video adapters on macOS? Unsupported video adapters on macOS. See consideration for graphics processor GPU accelerated features on Camera Raw 11.4 and later, and Camera Raw 11.3 and earlier. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's great. Thank you.